Welcome back, everybody. So today we are going to be working on the DJI RC controller. This is the original version with the screen, so it's the one that has the screen, not the new version with the antennas coming out. So a few things to note about the DJI RC. For me in particular is the Mini 3 Pro. I've had a lot of success with this drone. I've spoke about it, I've made plenty of videos about it. I love this drone. Some of the biggest issues that I've had with it is connectivity when I'm around, say, a city environment, or when you're kind of stretching the distance when you have, tall buildings in sight. Biggest issue I have with that is when I first started using it, I didn't see the function in the controller where if it lost connection, you could have it just hover in place. It was set from factory to return to home, which is no good, because if there's a building in the way, it's going right into the building. Number one, you can cause injury to somebody's personal property or a person themselves, and many other things. But also, along with that, is you lose your tool to either create an income with. So that's where we're on today. I researched a few things online, and this is what I came up with. This is a set of router antennas. Now, they're a bit bigger than the factory antenna. They're a little bit bigger in length, meaning when you have them actually connected to the controller, as you can see, they're going to stick out past the controller. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. There's nothing you can do about it. This requires modification of the case of the controller itself. I'm a retired mechanic. I have no problem boring holes into things. I have no problem disassembling things, especially electronics. I've done plenty of screens on cell phones, taken apart computers, you name it, I've done it. As far as smaller electronics, not just when I was working in a body shop working on cars. Be that as it may, I'm pretty confident with wiring as well. So this kit, according to a few forums and a few videos I actually saw on YouTube researching the topic, there was a number of different options. You can go with this $300 modification, and no joke, this is my iFixit tool case. This is about how big that modification sits off the controller. So it's like double the size of the controller. Sure, you probably can get 20-mile range, but at the end of the day, my biggest issue with that was, first off, the price. I think the price is just out of control. If I was going to pay $300 some odd for an antenna that was, almost twice the size of the controller, I would just buy the new controller. The best option for me was this router kit. Now, it comes with the two terminals that are going to go into the controller itself. So disassembly of the controller is required for this modification, as well as screwing on these antennas. Now, packing away, it's going to be fairly straightforward. Just unscrew these, throw them in your bag. If you have a bigger bag, then I'm sure you can find a way to just leave these on. So if you had left them on, say it would be about this big. So it's going to be a little bit bigger than the width of the controller, not by much. So that's our goal today. We're going to disassemble this controller. We're going to take it step by step. It's very straightforward. It's not a difficult disassembly at all. Requires a little bit of prying on the shell. I would say, take care. You do have an LCD screen here, and you don't want to crack that. So let's go ahead and disassemble this. What I'm going to do, I'm going to leave this camera on, and we're going to try to set this one up on a different angle. So let's see how it goes. Okay, here we go. All right, so first step is to disassemble the controller. So let's get started with that. I have my strap rings here on the controller itself, mainly because when I'm on a site, when I'm on a job, if I want to go from cam to say I want to go from the camera to the controller here. Well, these Peak Design straps, when you buy a strap, it comes with 2 connectors. Really, really convenient. I saw another creator with this modification, not really a modification, but the only thing that I need is the wing nut style screws, just to make ease of looping these on and off. Right now I just have them sandwiched in between 2 washers. So let's hop this thing off and we'll start there. Now, the cool thing about this modification is it's reversible up until the point of drilling the holes into the body itself. So bear in mind with this mod, you're going to have to bore some holes into the shell. But keep in mind, even with that very expensive modification, the expensive antenna conversion, you still have to bore some holes. So at the end of the day, you're going to have to drill holes no matter what. So if you're not comfortable with drilling holes and you know somebody who's handy with tools, maybe see if they would do the job for you. Or at the end of the day, if you're uncomfortable, yeah, inside of here, there's a couple of little Phillips heads. At the end of the day, if you're uncomfortable doing this kind of modification, then it's best to just either leave the controller as it is or invest in the higher end controller. Me personally, I have no problem putting holes like I mentioned, so I'm not exactly sure of this size. What I'll do is I'll write down in the description what size screws and screwdrivers I used. Right, this is a JS1, and whichever one this is. I'm going to need my glasses for this mission. Let's see. And this is a PH00, so Phillips head 00. That's the one in here. There's a screw in here that you have to remove. I think there's 2. Yeah, there's 2. I know one of the videos I saw, the guy who was doing the mod pulled one out, and that just didn't make sense to me. I knew there was another one tucked behind there. I think he either missed it or possibly just didn't put that in the description when he did the mod. Okay, step 1 is complete, and these 2 are out. These 2 screws lead to nothing. I put these in here. I had these little baby screws from a PC that I had disassembled, and I had saved a bunch of hardware from it. It was like years ago, I think. I had these tiny little screws in a jar. So the next step after removing these 2 here, most likely you will not have screws just like I did. Remember, like I mentioned, I put those in there, so disregard that. You've got the 2 here, and then you've got 2 underneath where your controllers are, where your little joysticks go. So to remove this, you have to kind of pry it out, which is not super difficult. Just get yourself either a plastic pry or a metal pry, it doesn't matter. This is rubber, so it's fairly flexible. What I'm going to do, I'm going to put this here. I'm going to get something a little softer to lay this on, like this. And we'll do it like that. This way we're not pushing any pressure on that screen. But I'm really curious to see how this modification works. So this is double-sided taped in. So if you don't have double-sided tape, most likely you'll be able to reuse the tape that is on this, as long as you don't, destroy it too much. But if not, look on Amazon. You can get super thin double-sided tape. You see, it's not even that bad. You can reuse this. But there are brands on Amazon where you can get this very thin. It's almost as thin as paper. I used to use it in the automotive world, and it's like very thin 2-sided tape. It's not thick like foam, it's thin like paper. So if you're not comfortable with slapping this back on in this condition, go ahead and order yourself a roll of 2-sided tape. I'll leave links in the description to all of the tools that I used for this modification, along with the antenna kit itself and this, what is this? This is the iFixit toolkit. So let's see which one these are. I believe these are the same size. No, this looks like it's probably the the bigger Phillips head here. Yep, it is. So keep track of your screws. You don't want to put the wrong ones in the wrong place. These ones are a touch longer, so you'd know right away. If you screwed in, you might damage something, so keep that in mind. So we're going to get this one out. Let's get this out. All right, so I'm pretty anal when it comes to organizing screws. I have everything in the top cover of this kit. And for me, that's just kind of continuity on how I like to work. I like to keep things in order. So I'm going to use this pry tool. I saw on a previous video somebody was using a different style tool. I like these ones because they grab on pretty well. Now, let's see. Let's see how he pried this bad boy open. I think at the end of the day, you're just going to have to get a little forceful with it. I saw one guy set it up on a vise and squeeze the frame on a vise, but I didn't feel too comfortable with that idea, putting this thing in a vise. It's a fairly delicate screen. I mean, it's an LCD screen that I'm sure is built for some abuse, but at the same time, if you don't need to destroy it, don't destroy it. But these things work really well. So you see what I'm doing? I'm just gently putting some pressure on here to open up this shell and allow some of these little clip tools to slide in there. Let's get this one wedged in there. Yeah, bear in mind there are cables inside of this, so just be careful when you're popping it open. And I got both of those out, correct? Yeah, it just seems like this side is a little tighter than the other. But it's starting to come now. Yeah, there we go. Alright. Alright. Okay, so the bottom half is disconnected. We're going to work on the top half here. Boom. On my inside here, you guys can see. Another clip. Okay, cool. So how they did it was they pulled it like this, and apart the size went. You can see these lithium cells here, very similar to, I think these are, yeah, just the same nickel cadmium batteries that are used on a lot of different products this day and age. So here, if I can get this in view here, what I'm trying to do is disconnect this wire here to allow, you can see they put some like adhesives, and it's like almost like a gummy adhesive to keep this wire in place. And we can just gently move that out of the way. I don't need it. I can always put a piece of gaff tape in there if I wanted to. So, let's get this half separated. Now, from what I see, there's no... There we go. Yeah, there's no lock on that clip. So when you disconnect this, there's no lock to it. It just goes in one way. So when you return this, you'll notice which way it goes in. And this is the side we're going to be putting some holes in. So within here now, you have your two antennas. So if you take a look on the case, it's showing right here like an antenna symbol. It's got a circle with kind of beams firing off of it. So I would imagine they're letting you know that that is where your signal is emanating from. But like anything, these can only do so much because they're very small compared to a larger antenna. And I believe that's why DJI did that themselves, why they went ahead and swapped out and added larger antenna just for a better connection. So let's put these up here where they go. They're going to be for the inside. So underneath this plate is where these two antenna connect. So that's what we're going to be looking for right now. I'm going to pull this. I'm going to pull this. This one. So keep in mind, when you pull this plate off, after you take out those 4 screws, the 4 Phillips heads, you've got this paste on here. See this blue paste? Don't wipe this off. That's the heat paste. That's for processors. That's for GPUs. I forget the name of it, but that paste dissipates heat, so you're not going to want to take that off. Just leave it the way it is, set it aside. So underneath here, there's a little pad here, and we're going to reuse that pad because I want my antenna to be pretty much just the way they are here. So as you can see, you've got one here and one here. You've got a white and a black. On the kit, they're both black, but it doesn't matter what color they are. I believe that's for when they're assembling that at the factory. They know which one goes to which side. So we're not out of the woods yet. You still have to remove these 2 original antenna, and they are connected with 2 more Phillips. They're screwed down here. Now we're going to lift up that. We're going to get that out. We're going to snake this out from underneath. Slide that bad boy through. And remember the routing when you do this. Try to replicate where the cable came from, and it will save you a bit of headache on reassembly of where to put the wires. Now keep in mind, you see how short these cables are on this. They're very, very short. The router kit that I bought, that is, kind of the mod kit that I was linked to when I looked this mod up, the cables are extremely long, so we're going to look at that now. You can see they are a lot longer. So cable management is going to be something that you're going to need to work on to get this to work. So let's see where we are on our body here. So as you can see on the shell, these are the clips that hold this together. You're not going to want to break these tabs, and you're not going to want to drill into these locations. The only complaint I had with the creator that did this mod prior was they didn't really point out that these are pretty important to keep the shell closed. Now, you're going to have a hole up here, and it's going to have this in place. It's going to be on the other body. You're not going to want water in here. You're not going to want moisture in here. I'm not saying you're flying your drone in the middle of a rainstorm, but moisture does get in. I live in Florida. We deal with a lot of humidity down here. So what I would most likely suggest for people in colder climates, find some, maybe a strip of black tape to go across the top, and then you do your thing. I mean, there's many different ways you can do this, but keep in mind that if you break these tabs off in the drilling process, meaning if you put this antenna connection in place of here, you're going to have to eliminate one of those. So you don't want to do that. So realistically, the only 2 spots you have are within this or closer together. I don't want them so close. I don't think that would look that well anyway. and it seems like within this shell, this is the best path, the path of least resistance to get these antennae through. So we're going to go here, and we're going to go here, and how we're going to do that is we're going to get a, where are we? We're going to get our front, and we're going to line this up, our back rather, excuse me, and we're going to line this up like this and find where the best spot to drill would be. So if you drill right on the center of that antenna design here, you're not going to be in the center of this. So I would suggest doing something like this and try to find your center line and do a little scratch maybe like that. Even better yet, we can get a marker and do this with a marker, because that will probably give us a better result. Bear with me. So let's do that. Let's get this in a marker. Okay. Still can see? Good. Okay. Excuse me. So let's set a mark here. This is directly in the center of the tab. And this is as well. So now what we're going to do, we might have to snap those two little ones off here and here. Maybe not, but we'll find out. And then we just slide in. I believe on one of the videos I saw, they had kind of shaved off these little tabs here. I don't really see that being that necessary. But at the end of the day, you want your male antenna side to be as centered as possible, but not too far towards the back and not too far towards the front. So it really just depends on where you feel comfortable drilling. I would say the best bet would be to do something like this. Find your center line and go from there. So what we'll do is we'll transfer this line all the way down. And the same with this one. And then, yeah, I guess we can shave those down a little. I don't think it would hurt to do. And for center point, I would say we'll go maybe a touch out. I believe that's the speaker that tells you when you're taking off and stuff like that. Yeah, let's go a little bit. Let's go like right here. That seems about right. Maybe that one's a little further out, but I can always measure. Do a simple measurement like this. And that one will just be a touch on the inside of this. So I'll go a little on the inside. So I would say that the next step would be to go nice and easy with the drill. So whatever your pleasure is, whatever drill you like to use. I've got a few drill bits here. So we're going to look at the smallest one I have, which that is not the smallest. I know there's a smaller one in there. Yeah, there's a smaller one in there. Okay. So start with the smallest and work your way up. And you can kind of eyeball it. You can look at this and then kind of measure from here. Hey, would this one be the right size? Width-wise, that's too big. So maybe go a step below that. And you can always stretch the hole. You can't make the hole smaller. That's one thing to keep in mind. So let's start with this. Move these to the side here. All right, so nice and easy. We're not going to go like a bit of an animal here. We're going to drill nice and slow and take it from there. So there really is no right or wrong way to do this. I would say the wrong way is if you go through and start boring holes into, wiring inside. So just get your drill bit lined up to the hole that you decided is best for you and start your drilling. So as you can see, I'm going pretty slow. I don't want to bore right through this thing like an animal. Hole number 1. And let's get number 2. So my 2 starter holes are set. Let's get the, where are we with my little razor tool? There it is. So I'm going to trim some of those off to give me a flat surface when I go to bolt this down. So I'm just going to take a tiny score and just trim some of it. Just like that. Flatten it out a little bit. This way when I have this piece in there, it's kind of hitting a flush surface. But we'll see how that works. It might work, it might not. We'll find out. Nothing too crazy, just trim a little bit. And please remember to take all of these little bits and pieces out. You don't want those floating around hitting electronics. Don't know what it would do, but I'm sure it's not the best thing to have floating around in there. Alright, so next, let's find the right one to match with this. I think this might work, but it might be too small, but we're going to do it anyway, because I have a hole opener that I can do. So now I'm just widening the hole, nice and easy. Not going to go nuts here. Just get it lined up. Yeah, it wants to jump a bit, so be careful. Or at least in my case it does. So almost pull away when you're billing. Okay, so let's see how this fits. Not quite. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get out my opener and open this hole just a little bit without disrupting. I actually can't use this one. Can use this one though. Might have to go a step above. Might have to. The bit might have to go a bit bigger, but we'll find out. I'm gonna try to not do that. close, but not close enough. Gonna have to go up a size. Where are we here? I think the next size up was this. Yeah, it's gonna have to be the next size up. And then we can always smooth out these holes again. And that should do it. Yep. Okay, so let's clean this mess. Let's get this out of here. Let's get these, actually leave these over here for now. And let's see what we get with this. So now the trick is to connect these to the board after we get this slotted in here. Where's my little wrench? Here we go. I'm gonna need a wrench. So this has two crush washers. Well, one kind of grab washer and a crush washer. My suggestion is to follow the steps of how they went in. Leave this lower one in, slide this up in there, and then you're going to want to get the crush washer underneath, and then you're going to get this one there. So I can already tell I do not like the angle that's sitting at. So again, that comes down to, well, let's see, if the other one's on the same angle, maybe I'll leave it. A minute. And again, maybe this modification may not be everyone's cup of tea. You might look at this and say, no way am I drilling holes in my controller. And I understand that. I would understand if you didn't want to do it. And maybe you don't need this modification because you live in an area that's very open with not that many buildings, and you know, if you wanted to do this modification, see, no matter how hard I tried, it's still not exactly even, and that's okay. I'm not really worried about the 100% accuracy as far as, you know, front to back, as long as it's in the generally the same direction. So let's see, let's get this tightened down until we start seeing some flex on the shell itself, and then we'll see what it looks like from there. Looks like we're almost there. Okay. Yeah, I mean, if you live in an area where you don't have a ton of tall buildings around, or you're in a, you know, kind of an open area where there's a lot of fields, this, you may not even need this. You might have a clear line of sight where you've never had issues with connectivity. When one of the last projects I did, I was filming a building, and what happened was it was right before I changed the drone setting to hover instead of return to home, and it started flying right at the building, and my heart jumped, and I put it into sport mode, and I hit reverse, and I was able to stop it, thankfully. But it was still kind of, you know, it was kind of scary because I didn't want to destroy the drone. I didn't want to hit a building. I didn't want to hit a person. So it's one thing to keep in mind. Okay, so back to where we were. We're going to put these right onto the little spots here where there were antenna. I can't really see that. It's very small. I think it says antenna 1 and antenna 2. So we're going to want to go back underneath here. So go back underneath these cables where you slid them out of, and just be mindful with metal tools inside of this electronic board here. Don't use them, would be my suggestion. And try not to hit this blue goopy stuff here, because that will, that's probably not good. It's not going to do anything directly, but you would lose the cooling pastes feature of what it actually does for you. Alright, so now the trick is to route these underneath this plate and not impede on the screw holes. So let's see how we're going to do this. I think we're going to just keep them above the plates, and we'll find a way to get these on there. So same as disassembly, you're just going to slap these bad boys right onto their terminal. It's a little hard to see, so just take your time. And once you hear it kind of click in, you know it's secured on there. You can give it a tug and a test if you want to make sure. I'm fairly familiar with these terminals, but you still might want to do it a little cautiously. You don't need the tweezers here. I'm just doing it so you guys have a little bit better of a view of what I'm doing, what I'm snapping it onto. And I'm doing my best to keep that tweezer away from the board. There we go. All right. So what I'm going to return is that foam strip that was kind of just connecting the two of them. I don't really think it was connecting. I think it's a barrier between this metal plate. God forbid that metal plate comes in contact. It's not going to hit it. Okay, so we have both of these in place. Let's get this back where it belongs. And the wiring, we'll sort that out in a second. We'll see where the best routing is. I don't really think it's going to make a difference where you put it, but I'm pretty particular with modifications and upgrades, so let's see what the best spot is for it. Let's get these back on. One thing I would suggest prior to snapping this back and snapping it home is to check your antenna. Make sure your antennas fire up when you turn on the controller. Make sure everything still works and you're getting antenna. So bring out your drone, connect your drone, turn the drone on, turn on the controller, and double check that you have a signal. So let's see. Screws a little bit of a pain in the neck. All right, cool. So, where are we going to put these wires is the question. I would think you could loop them around. I'm not really exactly sure what I want to do yet. I would say I can do one of these. And that will kind of shorten them. Yeah, that worked. Okay, so kind of brought them down a little bit in size. Yeah, they'll float around in there, but that's okay. And now we're going to go back. We're going to connect the rear, which is connectivity for your rear buttons. Don't forget to connect that, otherwise you'll have to open it back up. Let's see. Snap that bad boy home. And okay, so we are connected on all ends. I'm not going to snap this together. What I'm going to do is I'm going to screw these antennas on and see what kind of signal we have. And bear in mind, this is a modification that costs a little bit of skill as far as drilling, and around $8 for these antennas is very, very affordable. That's why I went for this mod, because I knew it was going to be cost efficient as well as do what I needed to do to give me better signal while I'm using it for work. Even for fun, if you want to just fly for fun, it doesn't matter. I mean, I fly both, but mainly I've been using this a lot for work. So let's power the drone. Let's power the controller and see what kind of signal we get here. Okay. It's loading. Everything looks like it's loading well. SD card detected. Confirm. Okay, so let's hang tight and see what happens with... Okay, so that is our RC bars, and it's showing top bars. There's your satellite, and this one, I'm not really sure what that one is. Okay, it's showing 5 satellite. Okay, so what we'll do, let's disconnect this. So it's working. We know we have signal. Let's take this down, and let's take this down. Yeah, it's still showing good. All right, rock and roll. So let's seal this back up. Both of these need to be charged. Okay. So the power's now off. We're going to double check that our cables are not being pinched on anything as we close down. See, that one was by the battery. I don't want that. I'd rather it be in the middle here. Next to that. Let's see how we can do this. Okay. You can just roll these up like that. If you want to secure them with tape, you can. I don't really see a need to secure them with tape as long as they're not interfering with any of my spots that I have to screw the body back together. I'm okay, and they're not. So then it's just repeating the process in reverse, snapping everything back together. And as you can see, it looks like those tabs are in the way. Can't tell, but it looks like they are. Unless it's like a hook and clip, I'm not really sure. Nope, we can get it. No, it works. Yeah, just have to really force the top in. Snap that. don't like that bump. But I think for right now, we'll be good with it. There we go. Okay, good. It went back in. Good. And that's it. We got the controller connected. Let us get our screws back in. Longer ones were for the back here. That's a different tip, yep. That's for the bottom. And don't forget the two on the bottom. I think the hardest part of this project is that you're just dealing with very small parts. So if you're not comfortable with doing, undoing and redoing tiny, tiny screws, then I would suggest maybe asking a friend to do it, or if you're really hard pressed on having better range, maybe just go ahead and order the newer controller. Like I said, I've done phone screens before, and the screws inside of iPhones are literally the size of pinheads. So, all right, that's it for the controller. So as you can see, the modification wasn't too bad. It was fairly straightforward. As you can see, the antennas, if this will focus a little bit, you can see that the stalks that are inside of the controller remain, and you have the ability to unscrew the antennas themselves, angle them any way you want. I would think out and up will be the best position to have them, so long as they're not really impeding in your control. I'm going to be giving this a test this week. I'm going to give a full review before I give my opinion on it, what I think about it. Now that they're both in generally the, kind of the right spot where I would want them to be. As far as folding away and packing away, that's not going to work where I pack it away, so I'm going to have to remove these. But I'm sure if you have a big enough case, or you just don't put it in a case, you just, kind of put it on your shelf, you'll be good like this. So thank you for tuning in to this little do-it-yourself modification. Keep in mind, this was $8.99. That is a huge savings compared to buying the actual controller or buying that other modification that I saw. Quite frankly, it just turned it into almost the size of a tablet. The whole beauty of these controllers are they're very portable, and the flight time on these are a lot of fun. So that being said, I will give a review on what I feel as far as the distance. Me flying this, do I get more distance? Do I have more connectivity? Do I have more antenna, connection while I'm flying within a industrial area or a city area? And I'll let you know. I'll give you my honest feedback on it. I mean, I'll give it a couple of weeks and give it a run. So if anything you guys have seen in this has added any value, just throw it in the comments. Tell me what you think. Tell me, oh, hey, I've tried this before. The modification sucks. Or I've tried it, or I know somebody who's tried it and it works. Other than that, I'm going to get out and fly this weekend, and I'll get some feedback on it next week. So until the next video, thank you for tuning in. If you like the video, hit like. If you are interested in this type of content and you want to see more, I posted a video a couple of days ago kind of going over what I'll be doing this year. I've got a lot of exciting things planned. I've got a lot of gigs coming up. I've got a gig coming up in 2 weeks with a major production company that I've worked with a number of times. I've mentioned them on the channel. Really excited to work with them. Their jobs are, top-notch jobs, and this company has done, well over 12,000 videos worldwide. So it's a really cool company to be connected with. Among my other projects, I have a shoot this Saturday. I've got a couple of things going on next week. I've got some projects I have to finish editing, so I've got to get to it. So thanks for tuning in, and I will see you guys on the next video. Have a great day.